In this video from We Are Racing.
Okay, things I wish I knew, number 9.5, while Graham is thinking, is write this shit down.
Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we came to visit Francois Greef. You guys know Francois.
Hi there, how are you guys doing?
And as you probably saw from the title, today's video we're going to chat to you about the things we wish we knew before we built a Lotus 7 Birkin car. So let's get stuck into it. Right, so before we start, let's quickly do an update on where we're at with the car. So we mentioned in our last video that the seat that we built, the new little bench, has gone for upholstery, and we expect that we'll be back fairly soon. In the meantime, Francois has done a little bit of work on the car, and let's show you what that is. So first off, we mentioned that we would like to ideally road tune the car, and in order to do that, you obviously need O2 sensor and clever information to the computer. So we had the exhaust modified, one of those oaks put in there, so that we can get the necessary sensors in there. And Francois, you bought something off eBay to be able to read that information. What did you buy?
Well, I didn't buy it off eBay, I bought it off Amazon.
Sorry.
It's a O2 sensor with a gauge. When I looked at the options, there was also a tuner set up where it's like a little fancy computer thing, handheld device. But I bought definitely and paid for the normal gauge, which would have gone into the car. And when it arrived here, surprise, surprise, it's R1,000 more diagnostic tool that arrived. So we were quite surprised by that. Thank you very much, Amazon. Asked them what it's about, and they say, no, don't worry, everything's fine. It's not a mistake on their side, they don't have the others. Long story short, the device can now be installed in multiple cars. So when Graham is finished with his M7 and we're ready for tuning there, we should be able to plug it in. I made a few extra bungs, which they call that little thing, it's a bung. So we can weld it from day one into his exhaust and also do the diagnostics there. Fancy thing about this diagnostic tools, it also does ODB2. So if you have a newer car and you don't know what's happening, it can also work on there. Not that I plan to become a tuner, but it's a nice tool to have if you're in a street where you don't know where to go to.
And the big thing there is just to measure air-fuel ratio.
Air-fuel ratio, one of the key successes to without catalytic converters. With it, it's critical. You cannot run it if you have a catalytic converter. So in South Africa, we don't have those rules yet. So we're fairly open, so like a free flow works well. So we can actually tune closer to, if I remember correctly, the 14-point mark. So all that we'll go to specialists to get the information from them.
Cool.
A few minutes later.
So Francois, number one, what would you like to share with the audience?
Well, I think the most important thing is always, well, being an engineer, we look at quality, cost and time. And one of the things we keep on missing is time. So I wish I knew it would take 11 years to build this. Very glad it's finished, or nearly finished, but you always underestimate the time. I thought it's going to be about a 3-year build. Nobody said to me, if you don't finish your car within 3 years, don't start it. But it took us a little bit more than 3 years. So that's the very first thing. Advice there, do make sure you get all the parts when you start. If you build a kit car, because companies do go bust or close up, and then you can't get the original parts anymore. The second thing is make sure you have space to put everything and keep it safe. So keep it wrapped, don't unwrap everything if you get kit cars. Keep it in one location and numbered with all the manuals printed. Electronic stuff do go away, paper tend to last a little bit longer. And then for the car itself, make sure you don't put stuff on top of it because then it gets impossible to access it.
11 years. Did we hear you right?
11 years and two garages later, after it was stored for probably 8 years at my father-in-law's house, while my wife decided we need to do some building renovations. So we literally had to take the car, everything away to my father-in-law's place, locked it up there, and then brought it back to Graham's house as per one of his previous.
So one of the other things, Francois, and this is probably number 2 in the things we wish we knew before we started. We decided on the, well, you decided on the 20 valve Toyota motor, which fits into this tiny little space. So you're dealing with a lot of heat inside here, specifically around this stainless steel exhaust that runs out the side over here. And the concern around that was these water pipes that's going to run right past the exhaust over here and a lot of heat coming up. So to try and address that, what we did is we bought what is commonly known as a reverse water kit. And it redirects all the water to go past that side of the motor where everything is nice and cool, and it works exceptionally well. We do believe that it works way better for a racing application, because in our application what we ended up with is the car, when we're driving on the highway or even just on normal B roads, sits at about 56 degrees Celsius, which is way too cool for a car. You really want it sort of in the 80 degrees Celsius range. So what we've done is we've gone back to a more traditional setup, disconnecting the water tower at the back over here, the VW tower that we put into there, and just putting in a normal inline water filler cap like this, and the water now works perfectly. And then previously we showed you that we wrapped the exhaust over here, and that takes a massive amount of heat out of the engine bay. So that's number 2 of things that we wish we knew.
Okay, so being slightly heavier and being totally over the top always with making things strong enough, suspension is my next thing. That fortunately was a lesson I learned before I started building, and what I literally went for was the best possible coil-over suspension kit I could find. This is a UK type coil-over suspension. I cannot remember the make now because it's inside there. But it's fully adjustable for damping rate, height adjustment, everything. So there's about 7 or 8 different settings on it. The second most important thing is having every corner of your car being fully adjustable. Camber, toe in, angle, everything can be adjusted on this. And it is really, really strong. This is the only 4 pieces that keep you on the road. So for me, it was super important to make sure that works. And then the next second thing after safety for suspension is stopping the car. So there's a set of Wilwood Brakes on here. Now that's, if I remember correctly, the American version of Brembo, or not version, the equivalent of Brembo, which is used in Formula 1. So it's not a full carbon set, not at all. This is a road driver car, one that we'll have fun with. So it's normal metallic with proper brake pads.
Just then.
So Francois, interesting you should mention the Wilwood Brakes, because that's number 4 on the list of things we wish we knew. Buying American brakes on a South African car where we largely depend on European tools, these things don't adjust in millimeters. They come in 70 micro inches or something, whatever they call those things. So you're going to need some specialized specialized spanners to be able to adjust these brakes. A 6mm spanner is too small, and a 7mm spanner is way too big to be able to open the nipples on these brakes and be able to bleed them.
Last item around brakes that I want to mention is a friend of mine had a big off in his Audi TT on a track after a few laps, enthusiastic laps I might add, because the brake hoses itself, this last little piece of brake hose, which is about 1.5 feet long in American terms. This thing literally popped open because of the heat. So these are really, really strong ones, apparently, but I would really recommend going for proper racing braided hoses from day one, and that's something I still need to do, so it's the very first upgrade that we'll be doing. But definitely braided hoses is a must.
Well, I went off at Swartkops with my, well, I didn't go off, but my car went into limp mode because of the exact same thing. And we also added .5.1 brake fluid, which boils at a much higher temperature. I don't know if that's going to be necessary over here, but if you have a performance car, that's something to consider. When you build a kit car, and this is number 5, when you build a kit car, the common misconception is that you're going to be working with bolt-on. As you know from lots of YouTube videos, bolt-on does not mean bolt-on. Nothing will fit as advertised. And with that, one of the things that we figured out is the oil filter that lives in there. And if you can see it, I hope you can. We actually put a little spacer on there to be able to redirect our oil filter to over here on the side. Why? Because the oil filter just does not fit behind the exhaust, and then obviously you have to deal with the heat of the exhaust in close proximity to the oil filter over there. That was a pretty tough upgrade to figure out.
Okay, so being who we are and trying to modify everything ourselves, we tried to install that bung we mentioned earlier in a piece of exhaust pipe. Now, this little piece of exhaust pipe is a really nice piece of stainless steel, which is what is the ideal thing to make exhausts from. But it's a fairly thickish piece of stainless steel. And thinking who I am, I decided, okay, drill press, let's drill a few holes in it before we grind it out. After about half an hour of trying to drill into stainless steel, we realized you need special tools. So stainless steel that was hot, or that you're trying to drill in, you need special skills, which we don't have. So I ended up taking it to an engineering shop with proper tools to actually create it. And even afterwards, when I looked at the installation and you look through the hole, you could see these guys really suffered to install it. So it was worth every cent for me to take it there. The end result is really neat. It's really amazingly welded. It looks really professional. But if you look below the skin, you can clearly see it's a really hard piece of work to get that done. So sometimes you do need specialist works, especially when it comes to stainless steel.
So number 7, Francois, on our list of things we wish we knew before we started building this car. If you're going to build a kit car, make sure that you've got the space to build a kit car. This is really important. This is the same as going to gym and deciding that you would like to go to gym every morning. Previous night, put your clothes ready so that when you wake up tomorrow morning, you can slip right into your gym clothes and go to the gym. It must not be effort. This is exactly the same story with building a kit car. Make sure that you work in a space where the stuff is going to be available, accessible, so that you don't have to first get a bunch of cars out and put your project ready and then only start working. You want to be able to quickly pull in there, work for an hour and move out of the space. Then of course Francois mentioned a little bit earlier that this car went into storage for a long time, and this is possibly can actually be number 8 if you think about it, Francois. Don't paint and finish your car before you start building. So I had a very nice motorcycle back in the day. It was this color. It is one of my favorite colors in the entire world. And when Francois helped me to sort out a little mark on my motorcycle, he decided this is a good color. And he's pointing out some chips for you at the moment, and there's some really nasty scratches on this stuff, because he then decided, nah, you know what, this car's going to take what, another 12 months to build, might as well paint these things. Ended up in storage for 8 years. And a cat got into the garage and bumped all the stuff over, and the result is that these things are quite damaged. So don't unwrap, don't paint, don't finish until you're absolutely ready for that. And that includes that very fancy bonnet over there. Francois had it wrapped in a sheet, and we kept it wrapped in that sheet until we actually started cutting out the bits on that thing and was able to fit it onto the car.
Several bad puns later.
Okay, so the blokes at Birkin gave us a really nice wiring loom pre-setup. So effectively the car consists of 2 main wiring looms. The one is for the ECU, which I bought from Clive at Wilmont Racing. Really well easy to plug in, everything was there. We literally had just to mount it somewhere. I see many people mount this on the inside of the firewall. Graham decided to mount it here. It's not a problem for me. I don't think we have that much heat left after our wrapping of the exhaust pipes, but that was very important. The second thing about, or the second piece of wiring was the actual vehicle wiring, brakes, lights, alternator, all the switches inside. That wiring loom, nowhere in the documentation could we find the exact route that they recommend. So we went ahead and Graham and Ben, they decided this is the route to follow. And after everything was wired, I arrived there and I said to them, so why did you not use that little hole to take all the wiring through? Because that looks like the ideal wiring to get into the wiring box. So always a good idea to get a friend to have some extra eyes. And once you're done and you look at it, stand back, look at the whole thing, and see if everything looks nice, if it fits. We're trying to keep this as clean as possible. So there was a little bit of fault finding in the last week, trying to do things so it's not perfect anymore. But we'll get it back to that very, very soon before the car leaves this garage. It will be back to a shiny, everything out of the way.
You know what was funny? I sent Clive Wilmot a picture of our ECU setup because he helped me out a lot, especially to get the car running initially. And he sent me a message back. He said, who made your wiring loom for that ECU? And I said, I don't know, because I didn't know. Because he says, sure, it looks so nice. And obviously because it was his handiwork. So Franco, item number 9 on our list of things we wish we knew. So as you guys know, we used this 20 valve 1600 application from Toyota. Back in the 90s, this motor was the shit. It made lots of power, it still makes lots of power. It is very easy to tune and it sounds the business. The difference between the silver top and the black top, silver top has one adjustable cam where the black top has both of the adjustable cams, both inlet and outlet. Now this information I couldn't find on any video, any documentation or anywhere. It is just not available. So if you're going to use this motor outside of its natural habitat, there's a couple of modifications that you need to do with it. The first one, which is the video Brendan made, is you need to cut off this whole vacuum section over here. I do believe this has got something to do with choke and cold start and whatever else. So you need to cut that off, and then Wayne Sylvester gave us a little insert that he made on his lathe that went into this, and we broke this thing when we actually put it in there. So Brendan fixed it with Bondo or whatever this stuff is called, Pratley steel, and that seals off this bit over here. The next item is you have these vacuum bits on each side of, at the bottom of there, sorry. These vacuum bits on each side of the fuel injection setup over here. And they're on both sides. And those things need to be blanked off. And we ran into an issue where the car started running really badly. As in overfueling like you cannot believe. And it's because this bolt here actually dropped out. Make sure that you get the correct bolts. They are a different thread pattern from anything else that you're going to use, and make sure that you put them in there with either red or blue. They're never going to come out again. Put them in with red thread locker and just get them in there permanently, because if they come out, this car's going to run like an absolute dog.
Okay, things I wish I knew, number 9.5, while Graham is thinking, is write this shit down when you think of it, because this is actually quite funny. So we've been thinking about making this video for a while, or Graham enticed me to think about it, and we keep on remembering the things. We had a list and now the list is empty, but there's at least a few things we remembered which we don't remember anymore.
Yeah, so one of those things, 9.5, so item number 10 then, thank you Francois. You're going to need weird little connectors like this guy over here, which we really battled to get. You guys might remember that from one of the videos. Do speak to your local community, and I'm not going to expand to that about that too much, but do speak to your local community and do find out where you can buy stuff like that. If you remember from that video, Toyota offered us a wiring loom at 20,000 rand, which is like something like 15,000 US dollars. No, it's 12,000 US dollars. So, no, 1,200 US dollars, yes. A wiring loom so that we could cut off that plug and have it because they didn't want to give it to us. And we found a website locally, I'll find the website and link it down below, as well as carbuilder.com in the UK, who sells almost every single thing that you're going to need for your project car. Find a website like that, build a relationship with them, and make sure that you can get these weird little parts that you're going to need, because you will need weird parts.
Okay, so number 11 on our list of things we wish we knew is Birkin sells this car with a really nice adjustable pedal box that you would think is ideal to make quick adjustments. It really looks the part because there's only 4 Allen keys that's needed, except with little hands like mine it does take a while to adjust it, not 5 minutes work. So if you are the only driver of the car, by all means it works for you. However, most of us want a friend to share in our hobbies. So to get a thin guy to fit, bucket seats is really nice, which you will remember in the beginning Graham had those really nice looking bucket seats, except I don't fit in it, and neither does anybody except Ben. So I explained to him where I had my initial idea of having, just like back to the 70s Lotus, just a normal piece of wood at the back, because when you strap yourself in, you strap the seat together, because you don't mount this on the seat, you mount it on the frame. So all the safety belts are mounted on the frame where it's strongest. So your body will keep the seat in place. But short people can't drive the car then. So having adjustable seats is really recommended, especially if you're in a community where everybody and all your friends are a little bit smaller. Tallish guys like me, we don't like any adjustment. We just want it all the way at the back on the floor, as low as possible. Get the center of gravity low. But yeah, adjustable seats is quite nice. It's much easier than having the pedal box.
So number 12, Francois, are things we wish we knew before we built a Lotus. If you're going to decide to build any car, join your local community. A couple of different things. Car guys are the best people in the world, hands down. I can tell you that the Lotus community in South Africa is some of the most awesome people I've met in my entire life, and I've made friends in different countries. I've had people reach out to me from Germany because of this Birkin build. A gentleman in Germany that, and his name escapes me, can you believe that? That built a Birkin and is actually driving his Birkin. Those guys are a wealth of knowledge. They know these things that we wish we knew before we started, and they can actually help you and share that information with you. The day that Francois dropped off the car, the very next day was a Sunday, and I went to Swartkops Raceway, and the guys were having a race with the Lotuses there, the Lotuses. They were having a race, and those guys just wanted to share information. I picked up contacts, I got telephone numbers, people told me stuff that I didn't know that I was going to need. Like for instance, at that stage, we knew that the sump was going to be a problem, and Francois actually built a dry sump setup, and we made a contact in terms of Ken Cloud, who actually builds for this 20 valve motor a special sump which gives you additional volume, so you get the extra oil and extra cooling, but it's low enough so that it doesn't come dangerously close to the road. Little things like that. And be sure that this is something that you actually want to get in before you start building that actual car, so that you know what you let yourself in for. That is going to be key to actually finishing the car and getting it on the road at the end of the day. I guess that should have been number 13. I wish I knew how much effort it would be to get this thing on the road. But yeah, I think that will be for a different video. Guys, this is going to be a wrap. Please comment down below on the things you wish you knew before you started building your project car. And I'm not going to restrict this to Lotus. Your project car, things you wish you knew before you built your project car. If we can get 10 or 12 items together, we will make a follow-up video on this and try and video call you guys to give your inputs. so that so we can share this information in our community. Car guys are just special. It transcends gender, race, creed and color. A petrolhead is a petrolhead no matter where he comes from. So yes, that's going to be a wrap for the video today. Thanks for watching.
No, Graham, it's not yet.
Oh.
One of the last items we always need to remember is life is too short to drive boring cars. Definitely.
Thanks, Francois.
Thanks, Graham.